Many people live in homes being destroyed by hurricanes, flooding and extreme weather. Many more live in homes built of wood, metal and materials vulnerable to the climate. 20% of those we share the planet with live in inadequate homes. 50 million are refugees. How can we adapt to the changing conditions in our world? I first began understanding the plight of nature back in the 90s after I saw the beauty of the rainforests and then the scale of its deforestation. I wanted to save a forest. 10,000 acres were about to be destroyed. I got friends together and we established the first Buy an Acre campaign. Thousands of people shared that dream, and through buying an acre of forest, together we saved the forest. The idea went on to create the first example of what later became known as crowdfunding.
The threatened rainforest of South America. Joining us now is Peter Hughes from the organisation behind the appeal, Mission Rainforest Foundation. The good news is you've got the deposit to save this rainforest.
Yeah, we've now got £30,000 down on the land, so it's all secured now.
I established many projects. One of these included buying and restoring an old building in Spain. During this time, I tested all sorts of natural building materials and became interested in the simple design of an egg. The oval structure of an egg is actually very, very strong. It's possible to use the oval shape within design to create houses that are, well, they're like bunkers. They're super, super strong. With the spherical airform and a process similar to 3D printing, it's possible to build a form of tent house. We designed this as a prototype with a view to promoting this as potentially a new form of rapid build shelter for the developing world. There are housing issues all over the world, the result of wars, terrorism and climatic catastrophes, and we need rapid build ways of housing them. The United Nations have traditionally supplied tents to displaced people, and that is where many refugees live over long periods of time.
Well, the brilliant thing about these bubble homes is that they can be constructed really quickly and by people who don't necessarily have a range of construction skills.
It's with this thinking in mind that I've come up with the bubble home idea. The structure's built with an airform that's inflated and then built upon and then removed. The old thinking of providing tents during natural disasters and then reconstructing over the course of years is simply no longer viable when there's such a frequency of extreme weather.
A lot of my studies were based around sort of eco-design and engineering and making stuff out of reusable and sort of scrap materials. So I think the sort of scenario this could be used in is sort of post-hurricane. You have a lot of rubble, a lot of mess, a lot to clear up, and it's quite often difficult to find a way of disposing of that, especially without the road and infrastructure around to take that stuff away, and it often can be quite expensive and quite a lengthy process.
One of the massive benefits is that you can use materials that are considered waste or a problem initially. For example, in a post-hurricane situation where you've got a lot of rubble, that can go into the construction of the home.
So I think it's really useful to have something like this where you can actually take that rubble, turn it into a really sort of useful project where it keeps people safe.
Hi, Kim Hale, NGO. I've always had an interest in sustainable development and I've worked in wildlife conservation. They can be put up quickly and you can train the local people to do it for themselves, which is great.
We needed something that was nearly as fast to put up as a tent, but actually nearly as strong as a house. We see rubble and see it as part of a new building. Nearly everything in a natural disaster can be used. There's wood, there's tiles,
Chicken wire, there's bricks in there,
there's metal, there's electrical wire,
sand materials, plant pots, all sorts of items that would normally need to be removed.
can be incorporated into a new bubble home. And then if the bubble home is no longer needed, it can literally be re-demolished and moved to another place.
They can be built using sustainable materials that are already around. So from an eco point of view, that's a really big plus.
You can even build them without a cement mixer, literally by using your hand.
Obviously there are cases where tents are going to be more suitable because they're more instant and these would be much more useful in an area where you've got the rubble available, so again sort of earthquake zone or possibly war zone.
Quite often where there is no way in, where whole towns and cities have been destroyed, there aren't really many options. But one option is to be able to drop in what's needed to build these via helicopter.
With just the one bubble which inserts and blows up, it's very quick assembly, which is obviously very advantageous in sort of hazardous conditions and hurricane conditions where you need shelter quickly and with sort of just local unskilled labour.
Inside a dome, the warm air circulates up, so the thermal properties are actually really good.
The obvious benefit is it's raised off the ground on a platform, so you're away from, in a flood zone for example, you're away from floodwaters, you're away from the source of disease.
I know Peter, who's been designing the bubble home, has had men jumping on top of it 3 at a time and it's managed to survive that. So I think, you know, if you're looking at something that can be built quickly and stand the test of time, then this is a really good solution.
And whole islands like Barbuda, they lost 95% of all their buildings. The entire population had to abandon the island. So when things like that are now happening, we've got to have a rapid rethink on housing. We need new answers, we need them quickly.
A solution that people are using at the moment, largely they're using tents, but of course in dangerous situations that's not the ideal solution. You've got the problems of disease on the ground, but also they don't necessarily hold up against the weather, and you can see with this kind of structure they're so much stronger, they can really withstand a good battering.
All the units together increases the strength as well, and in a hurricane with the dome shape the winds can pass straight over and you haven't got this sort of standard problems that you have with traditional housing, which is you know, if you get a second storm comes through and just destroys everything that you've rebuilt. So with these they can sort of stand to last if needed.
The advantage of bubble homes is the fact that they are so flexible in where they can be constructed. They can be constructed anywhere on the planet with minimal amounts of resources required. For example, you don't need electricity. They can be taken to a site where you have a generator, and from that you can build a bubble home village from one single generator.
Or you know, you could be used as hospitals, we could build many of them and create small villages, small communities.
For example, for a field hospital, you might want one at least 3 or 4 times the size. It's possible to construct a cluster of 9 homes with a shower facility and also with a kitchen facility within the space of 1 week.
Again, I think it's a really important project to fund. It's the sort of thing where you might actually see a tangible product. And at the end of the day, when you see disasters, you're going to see these things out there, and they're really going to make a difference to people's lives.
When people invest in funding projects now, they're not just looking for something that's going to be the next great project. They're also looking for something that means something to the world, that's going to have a real impact and make people's or animals' lives better. And that's what you've got here, is an opportunity to do a project that can be really scalable, but that can also have a real impact and save lives. So I really hope people get behind this.
Bubble Home provides a way forward to give people who have lost absolutely everything a realistic way to actually start again. Please support this project now. Please do provide funding in whichever way you can.